as we gear up for the next session, I want all of you to make sure that you are getting the most of the GFF app. We have the GFF GPT feature there where you can chat and ask all of your questions about speakers, about sessions that are happening, about side events that are happening. We have a lot of side events, including pitch decks, product launches, report launches, one-on-one conversations, closed-door roundtables. And apart from all of that, there is a lot of entertainment also that is ensured. We've got this KPR Sundowner that's going to happen tomorrow at 6 p.m., helmed by the legendary Shankar Mahadevan. We also have the Global Fintech Awards, much coveted, which is going to also happen tomorrow at 6 p.m. in the Jasmine Ballroom. Ladies and gentlemen, before I move on to my next session, I request all of you to kindly take a seat, maintain decorum, so that we are in the right shape to begin with the session as soon as possible. I have a lot of gentlemen right here at the front with the conversations. Thank you so much. I will just request you to possibly take a conversation outside the hall, and for the ones who are here for the session, to please be seated. Once again, to all of the gentlemen, since I can only spot gentlemen standing, please take your conversations outside the hall so that we are able to begin with the next session. All right. Now, right at the beginning, in the morning, I said that all of us together over here mean that we are committed to a financial future which is responsible, resilient, and I paid a lot of emphasis on the word inclusive. So the next dialogue that I'm going to open here on stage is about inclusion. Our topic for discussion is digitally included, building a financial ecosystem for all. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to straight up go ahead and introduce you to the moderator for this session, Mr. Ravi Aurora, Senior Vice President, Global Public Policy and Government Affairs, MasterCard. This session is going to be helmed by our speakers, Shri Neelkanth Mishra, Chairperson, Part-Time, Unified Identification Authority of India, UIDAI, and Chief Economist, Axis Bank, Mr. Turky Kabarah, Fintech Enablement Director, Saudi Central Bank, SAMA, Mr. Arnaud, Bacha, Director, Digital Innovation and Payment System, Bank of Mauritius. I want all of you to please put your hands together and make some noise. Welcome our panelists and moderator for this session.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much again for that lovely introduction. And great to be here with such an esteemed panel. So welcome again. Today's topic on inclusion, as was mentioned, I think is so topical. I looked around, going around to the exhibitor booths, and you see so much of energy and the variety of companies that are here. That are really catering to this ecosystem, all to drive access, inclusion. I think it is really fabulous to see, the revolution that is happening in India. And I want to thank PCI for this opportunity of, this particular session. So, when we talk about digital inclusion, it is not just about access. It's way more than just access. It's about building this financial ecosystem, where everybody can prosper, right? And I think even in an earlier panel, there was discussion about trust, right? So trust is paramount in the digital ecosystem. So you can't have inclusion without trust, for sure. So I'm really looking forward to, a great discussion with our panelists about, how do public and private enterprises, come together in creating that digital infrastructure that is inclusive, that is resilient, and is trusted. How do we look at, various, you could say, imperatives like digital identity, cross-border collaboration, how can that create new opportunities for the underserved communities? And India, of course, has demonstrated how, with scale and intent, the digital public infrastructure story of India is remarkable, and how that has reached masses. So we want to try to gather some learnings and share some learnings, from that, because at MasterCard, we see fintech partners as very, very essential in driving the future of financial inclusion. We believe that the more there is in terms of competition, more innovation, that can come into the payments ecosystem, the better off the end consumer will be. And I think we have many programs like our Start Path program, which provides a lot of access to fintechs, to global markets, to be able to pilot new solutions, connect with customers, connect with investors as well, to help them scale and grow in India and beyond India. So we want to make sure we provide the rails, the security, the standards, the credibility for them to grow in a more sustainable fashion. And there are many examples of that. Like, in India, we have been working with Zeta, in Bangladesh with bKash, which has brought millions of individuals into the financial ecosystem. In Southeast Asia, we've worked with Grab, financials. In Brazil, like with Nubank, that has enabled access to digital credit, and brought many into the payment ecosystem for the first time around. So these kind of collaborations that drive financial inclusion and strengthen the digital payment ecosystem is important. It's important to support new entrants. Like I said, it's important to foster new competition, innovation for consumers, and that is the role that we see as a payment system eco-player. So I think that I'm really privileged to be joined by a panel of such distinguished folks. Neelkanth Mishra ji, he's a seasoned professional, insightful thinker, brings a lot of perspective on policy and how policy and market forces, can work together to foster inclusive growth. On my immediate left, is Arnaud Bacha, and from Mauritius, and he's been very instrumental in reshaping Mauritius's financial landscape, and we look forward to some of your experiences of how you've driven innovation there. And on my extreme right, Turky Kabarah from SAMA, Saudi Central Bank. Again, we look forward to valuable lessons of, from your journey, right? So with that context setting around, the topic, let me start by perhaps posing a common question to all three of you. Perhaps take, 2 to 3 minutes to kind of set the stage. And right in the beginning of my remarks, I mentioned that it's not only about access, right? When we talk about inclusion, it is definitely beyond access. So from your vantage point, what do you believe is perhaps the single most critical factor to ensure that digital finance translates to economic empowerment, into genuine economic empowerment for the citizen? So perhaps I can, start with you, Neelkanth ji. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ravi, and thank you to GFF for inviting me here. It's not just about access. It's, I think, also about cost. It's about the right ticket size, the timeliness, the requirements that we impose on for the borrower or the raiser of capital. So, for example, if you look at gold loans, a non-banking finance company in India issues a gold loan at 18%. A bank issues it at 10.5%. Why? So that's a question worth asking, that if there is so much lower cost loan available, why is a borrower, and some of these firms have loan books going up to 1.6 lakh crores. It is because of the requirements that are imposed. So if you go to an NBFC, you can get a gold loan against a collateral, and which can be measured within less than 30 minutes, some in 5 minutes. If you go to a bank, you're required to give a lot of documents. This is, again, a regulatory requirement. It takes 3 days. And that explains the difference between 18% and 10.5%. So just the fact that you made the loan available is not good enough. The second big constraint, I think, is the ticket size. It is much easier to give loans and equity to large ticket size borrowers and raisers of equity. It is much, much more difficult to do it in very small granular ticket sizes. And I think when emerging markets, which are trying to grow to developed market status in 1/3 the time it took the current developed markets, it's extraordinarily important that we learn to solve both of these problems, that we bring down the cost of capital to the small entrepreneurs, and we also learn to give safely and securely capital. So this, I think, solving these problems, and I'm sure we'll address the challenges to that in the coming questions, is the most important.
Thank you. Thank you for that perspective. How about Turkey, from your vantage point, coming from Saudi Arabia?
Okay, it's actually an amazing question, but to start, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are enjoying your day so far, and thank you for having me. Now, to enable digital finance to actually contribute to the economy, we have to enable the right digital finance products and for the right segment, from the retail to the institutions. Now, talking about the SMEs and institutions, they have the right to want the right financing products that can actually facilitate their product delivery and impact. So from having a supply chain finance that can provide finance for every step of the way for them, with, of course, the right price at the right terms with the right duration. That's from the institutional side. And of course, if we will talk about the retail, it's definitely the same thing, having the right product for the right purchase with the right terms. Talking about the Buy Now, Pay Later products, talking about the micro-lending products, and talking about the different products that SMEs and retail can actually access at the right price, at the right period, and at the right terms for them to actually can contribute and make an impact on the economy. And maybe we can delve into that further into the coming questions.
Thank you so much. Arnaud? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I will say that, in fact, I will base my response on Mauritius' experience. What we can see is education also is required and is maybe more important than the platform and the system. And in Mauritius, we have at least the bank population is more than 90%. So we don't have really an issue on unbanked population. But we can see, even if the bank population is high, we can see that the digital payment is not that used. We have QR code payment, we have card payments, but still cash is king. So the education, financial literacy is very important to give trust, so that to show the population that these means of payment are safe, they can use it, and it will be faster, cheaper for them, and with less risk.
No, thank you so much. Very, interesting to get perspective from each of you, from, everything from consumer education. You talked about loans and ticket sizes. So I think, so thank you for, driving home that point. So Neelkanth, let me start, with you, and as also the part-time chairperson of UIDAI, India, of course, when we talk about digital public infrastructure, I go back to even when India hosted the G20, there was so much emphasis on and declarations, around DPI and where India's progress towards digital public infrastructure, that given the remarkable strides that we have made in digital public infrastructure, with Aadhaar very much as a foundational, you could say, layer and a foundational platform for that. So from your, vantage point, what kind of policy interventions are critical that, ensure that this infrastructure, it translates into deeper financial inclusion, and particularly for the underserved segments? So, because in India we talk about going to beyond tier 1, tier 2 into those markets.
Yeah, and I think it's a very
and
important,
micro enterprises.
Yeah, it's a very, very important question, and it is not just a good to have; it's a must-have. See, as we aspire to become a developed country, it's an economic necessity that the benefits of economic growth are more evenly distributed. But it's not just that; it's also about political conviction. Because if most countries that have gone through this phase of growth have seen a substantial increase in income and wealth inequality. In fact, India would be the first major democracy in the world to actually remain a full-service democracy while it has gone through this phase. The biggest challenge and the reason why inequality goes up is because capital access is not evenly available. And I think it's not just about allowing people access to savings products. So when you think about, say, systematic investment plans, many in the financial services industry think that these products are perhaps being missold, that households are being told this is, give you better returns than deposits. I think it is a remarkable innovation to allow risk capital to build up by average folio sizes of 2,500 rupees and then 11 crore folios. The enablement of this has actually required the digital public infrastructure. You needed very cheap KYC. You needed everyone to have a bank account. And with remote access, allowing us to go really deep into crores of households. But there is a long way to go. So we have solved some problems, but I think we need to stay at it for 25, 30 years if we need to get to Viksit Bharat. The first is, so what are the things that need to be done? The first is that even teledensity has stalled. The progress on teledensity has stalled. So rural teledensity is still at about 60%, which is where it was 7, 8 years back. They have access to cheap data, but that's not good enough. We need to promote this. For that to happen, you need ARPUs of 20, 25 rupees. The BSNL 4G launch of 27 September hopefully will solve that. There are schemes like PM Vani, which allow for cheap access to happen. We need to innovate and bring down the device costs, because at those price points, you need to make devices, smartphones available at those price points. But equally importantly, even on the current Aadhaar usage, and we are making those changes in Aadhaar, we need to improve the usage, make more digital usage. We are currently doing 9 crore authentications a day. About 1.5 crore are face authentications. The launch of the Aadhaar app, we expect, will help drive significant expansion in online authentications. The more that we can do of those, the cost of authentication, the timeliness of authentication did improve dramatically. We need to take it one level forward. So it's not just about improving the foundation and strengthening the foundation, which is what you need by better telecom density, teledensity, and better Aadhaar usage in a digital way. It is also building new layers on top of that. So OCEN, which I'm sure is being discussed, the Open Credit Enablement Network, I think has made rapid strides. It is growing very rapidly. In the last 7, 8 months, there's been substantial progress, but it is still a very small part of the overall banking ecosystem. And this is something that requires, I think, regulatory intervention. It requires the industry to come together and work with the industry associations. I think channels like ONDC are also important, just like we have made payments available at very, very low cost to everyone. Digital payments today completely democratized. Similarly, I think access to markets, I think those are the solutions that we need to find, and provision of cheap capital remains a must. So these are, I think, still works in process. I see very promising signs, but there's a lot of work to do.
Great, thank you. So I think, addressing, like you said, that whole digital divide, with a combination of both solutions, policy interventions, all of that go a long way in helping drive that inclusion further. So definitely, thank you for that. So Arnaud, if I can turn to you, Mauritius certainly has been kind of shown a lot of agility in embracing financial innovation. And so, as you all went through that journey, what reforms or regulatory approaches in Mauritius helped transform your ecosystem, the payment ecosystem, to drive inclusion?
Yes, thank you for this question. In fact, you're right. The regulatory change is a driver to bring this innovation. For example, what we had in Mauritius, the first one, main one that brought a huge change in the payment ecosystem was the introduction of the National Payment System Act. It helped to open the possibility in the country to have payment service providers to issue and acquire payment. So previously, only banks could give cards or give access to payment. But with this change, we have payment service providers offering new payment capabilities, new innovations. And it was also linked with part of open banking, so that these PSPs can connect directly to bank's account from existing bank, so that customers can pay from their existing account in a bank using a third-party application to pay whatever merchant or to do peer-to-peer transfer. This brought competition in the ecosystem, and we can see that year over year we are doubling this number of transactions that are happening in this instant payment system. This is one. The other one is the CKYC. The Bank of Mauritius Act was changed, was amended to allow Bank of Mauritius to be a central KYC institution. So all banks and other payment institutions can go through Bank of Mauritius to grab the KYC of users, so that it reduces the cost and facilitate the way we can access to KYC.
No, thank you. Thank you for that. So building on to the point that you made on trust, right, and KYC, so I think then, Turkey, if I can, turn to you, like Saudi Arabia, stands out, and we were talking earlier as well in terms of how, we've seen so much progress when it comes to, how Saudi Arabia has developed a whole very fintech-friendly regulatory environment. So from your perspective, how is the Saudi Central Bank, balancing this drive for, you want innovation on the one hand, and you want to, that to rapidly, and because the whole digital financial landscape is evolving so rapidly, but then how do you balance that with the need to ensure trust, as we were just talking, inclusion, as well as, mitigating cybersecurity risks from cyber?
Okay, amazing question. I would like to share with you what we believe in. We always believe in balancing between innovation and financial stability. Thus, we see regulatory development and regulatory framework not as a hurdle for innovation, but rather as an engine that facilitates responsible innovation. How did we do that? We actually, 7 years ago, have established a regulatory sandbox. We allow new innovation, new business models that doesn't have any regulatory framework to test new business model for up to 1 year, in which we can actually assess the risk associated with this product. And upon that, we can issue the right framework that allow these business models to evolve in the market, but however, without jeopardizing the trust that we have in the system. And because of that, I would like to share with you also what we did to support innovation and fintech companies. We have actually established a fintech strategy in which we worked with multiple stakeholders in the kingdom from different domains. Because as you know, fintech companies and innovation requires the right talent, the right infrastructure, and the right facilities and funding. So we worked with multiple entities to establish a fintech strategy, which was, by the way, approved 3 years ago by the Ministries of Council in Saudi, and it has multiple objectives to support the fintech companies. And as of today, we can see the results of that. So in Saudi, we have actually surpassed 280 fintech companies, going from just 6 fintech companies 7 years ago, and the amount of money invested in the fintech sector and innovation have surpassed billion. And that's, of course, a result from what we did in working with the market to develop the right regulatory framework that allow innovation, but also without jeopardizing the trust and the financial stability. And that's the way that we see forward on how we should deal with innovation in the Saudi market.
Great. No, thank you, Turkey. If I can build on, what you said is, so I think then, clearly in terms of this whole financial ecosystem and building that inclusive and bringing public-private sector players together. So how, from the Saudi Central Bank, are you creating the tone and the platform for collaboration across the various ecosystem players to come together?
Okay, that's an amazing question. So again, I want to go back to 2018 on what we did in regards to working with the market, working with the regulators, and establish this collaboration and initiative. We have actually established an entity called Fintech Saudi to raise the awareness in the market in regards to the fintech solutions, in regards to the inclusion in the financial sector, and also in regards to the financial literacy, where they can provide multiple programs that attract funding for fintech companies, but also raise awareness in regards to the talent and regulatory framework. So what we did, because we believe also that financial inclusion and financial literacy is a shared responsibility between all. I want to go back to the example of the regulatory sandbox, because it's an amazing platform for innovation and also for sharing ideas between the regulators and the market. Because in the sandbox, you meet with the market to try to understand the products, and upon that, test these products together with the innovators, and upon that, establish the right regulatory framework. So for me, that's one of the most important platforms to discuss with the market, in addition to establishing an entity in the market, which is, as I said, Fintech Saudi. In addition to that, we work with multiple entities, whether locally or internationally. Just to give an example, we work with RBI, of course. They are amazing at what they do. And of course, MAS in Singapore and FCA. We have regular meetings to discuss how the development is happening in the market, what is the risks that we should look onto, and what are the products that are creating an impact in the market and helping through the financial inclusion and literacy in the market. So what we believe in regards to the financial inclusion and financial literacy, it's a shared responsibility. Everyone has to start working together and continue working together to have the right mentality in the market and the right inclusion that we need and the right financial literacy that we need in the market for SMEs and, of course, the retails and institutions, and, of course, all the stakeholders involved in the ecosystem.
Great. Thank you very much. So maybe, one of the things that, Neelkanth, if I can come to you, as I mentioned at the beginning, going to the various booths and, all of the excitement over here. Now, obviously, digital identity is playing a big role, right, in everything. Because how does, any player in the ecosystem kind of validate who you are, right? And that is really what the cyber criminals and others are taking advantage of so much. And then you have everything from whether it is biometric authentication to with the different sets of tools that are being leveraged, encryption, authentication, all of those things that go hand in hand in validating and the whole digital identity. So as chair of UIDAI, and how do you see the role of digital identity evolving in this next phase of India's fintech journey? And what kind of safeguards, protections, innovations are needed to be able to making sure that digital identity, remains a tool for empowerment and trust, right? Bringing people into the fold rather than, and not subject to misuse and exclusion of those who really should be in the system.
Oh, absolutely, and I think trust is the cornerstone of the fintech ecosystem, as I think it often been discussed. Because see, there is an ongoing cat and mouse game because technology, access to new techniques, in hard forms of compute is very democratic in its access. So the fraudsters get it as fast as we do. It is now up to us in this cat and mouse game to be ahead and and that's what we do, we strive to do, because the moment the financial system stops trusting that Aadhaar KYC is not good enough, or that it is possible to game it, the costs in the system start to accumulate, and therefore it's very important for us to retain that trust. How are we going about it? So the first is that we are in relentless focus on data quality. So even though legally we are not supposed to be the proof of date of birth or proof of address, but in default, in practice, it is how we are assumed to be, right? People take Aadhaar address as the proof of address. So how can we clean that up? How do we make sure that biometrics are captured for every user? So what we have done now is, we are accelerating child enrollments. We are making sure that biometric capture, so as once the child turns 5, the biometrics are updated, and that makes the whole identity much more secure and final. So we have missions to increase the biometric capture for children who are coming of a certain age. We are also now, of course, using a lot of AI at the back end. So when there have been attempts to fake fingerprints, so there was a whole scam that was going on where people would capture fingerprints from land records posted online, convert that into latex prints, and then fake people's IDs. We have now AI systems which help us separate the liveness or do a liveness test. We have liveness tests going on for face authentication. But we realize that even these will be gamed, and therefore there is a lot of research going on the security side. We've also enabled, I think from the regulatory sandbox that Turky talked about, we also have enabled a sandbox so that in a safe zone without violating anyone's privacy or any data breaches, startups can engage with us. We also allow hackathons. We encourage hackers to come and hack into our systems or try to defraud us. And that way we start to close all the gaps. So we are ever vigilant and trying to stay many steps ahead of the fraudsters.
Great. Well, thank you. So I think, certainly from what you described, a lot of forward thinking and, in terms of down the line, how do we make sure to continue that trust and enablement? Let me turn to you, Arnaud, as I have not personally been able to be in Mauritius yet, but you are well known, Mauritius, as a global financial and tourist hub. So from your perspective and from Mauritius, how are you leveraging digital innovation, especially in the context of cross-border transactions and payments, right, and facilitating that, right, and also ensuring, because what is important is it comes down to interoperability, right, and so that because being a big tourist destination, you want to make sure that whoever's coming into your market, right? It should be very, very kind of seamless, right? So how are you, approaching, or how have you approached this whole aspect of interoperability, security, cost efficiency, all of that in your environment in Mauritius? Yeah.
Thank you. First, we'll invite you to Mauritius so that you can discover how it is. But more seriously, regarding the approach for interoperability, the instant payment system that we build, we use standards. So we use standard, the ISO 20022, and also the QR code that we have in Mauritius is an EMV QR code to ensure that we will have, when the system evaluates, we will have interoperability, compatibility with all these systems. For cross-border, in fact, we worked on 2 major projects with NPCI. We worked on the RuPay. We have a national card, and we worked with RuPay to extend our network so that these cards issued in Mauritius can be used also in India and also acquired in Mauritius. So when tourists coming from India to Mauritius, they can use their RuPay card in the Mauritius network. And same thing when the Mauritian is traveling to India, they can use this card in the Indian network. This is on the card level, but we also with the instant payment system, we interconnect it with the UPI. Today, it's not only card, but also a Mauritian traveling to India can scan the UPI QR code that is nearly everywhere in India. And same thing, when Indian traveling to Mauritius, we are opening and adding this interoperability so that they can scan the QR in Mauritius to do their different kind of payments. On security side, as usual, it is something very critical, so we try to respect the highest standard and to ensure that all transactions are secured.
Great. No, thank you very much. I'd love to get questions from the audience. We have about 8 odd minutes remaining, but maybe before we do that, one very quick question, 30 seconds to 45 seconds answer, if you from each of you, is maybe we start from you, Turkey. Is that if you had to choose one policy or regulatory innovation that is perhaps not there or can be built upon, right? What would that be, and how do you see that its successful implementation can help with what we are talking about in terms of being digitally included and building that financial ecosystem for everybody?
Okay, amazing question. I'll try to be quick. So one of the regulatory frameworks we are working on, which is the open banking, because of course to help the financial inclusion and financial literacy, what open banking does is actually analyzing people's data in regards to the payments while integrating into their bank accounts, and upon that, it will actually help them to understand their finances better, which will help them, of course, to choose the right product that actually suit them and understand their payment behavior, which is, of course, to me, raises the financial literacy and also raises the financial inclusion in regards to people understanding the type of product they can actually utilize and use that will actually benefit them. So if I will choose one regulatory framework that maybe hasn't been done or under development, I will totally choose the open banking as a main thing.
That's a great one on open banking. Neelkanth, yeah.
Yeah, I think that the fact that in India the debt to GDP in the banking system or the banking system is only about 56%. There are still people borrowing at 25% and 30%, and this is in the formal system. Imagine what they're doing in the informal system. And it's I think up to us as DPI providers and policymakers and regulators that how do we solve for the data, the access to credit at a massive scale. I think there are significant regulatory interventions that are necessary to, for example, for OCEN to scale. And those, I would say, in the near future should be our immediate priority.
Thank you. Arnaud?
Yes. I will add the part regarding the regulatory framework. Today, we can see when we are doing cross-border, all countries have a different regulatory framework. And sometimes these difference between regulatory framework increase the cost of transactions. And working towards an alignment or having something similar will help to reduce the cost of transaction and to reduce I think to improve the transaction and reduce the cost, because we want to go towards cheap payment, and I think this will be something that we should work on.
That's fantastic. So they're great. I mean, we heard on open banking, access to credit, and kind of how do we continue to bring the cost of credit down, because even in India, I believe it's like $500 billion or something of the unmet need for the access to what we need here, and then as I say, standardization and alignment of regulatory frameworks, that helps bring better alignment together. So thank you for those perspectives. Love to get any questions from the audience. Please raise your hand or get to a mic. I see a gentleman up in front right here. Would you like to stand up, sir? Yeah. And then get a mic here to the gentleman. Is there someone with a mic? Yeah. Can you raise the house lights? It's easier to see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mic unko dijiye. You have a question? Okay. Anybody with a question? Yeah, hard for me to see the room. Okay, great. So I think then, maybe then we can continue. We have 2-3 minutes if So maybe from your perspective, Turkey, as you were talking, given how is SAMA, Saudi Central Bank, working with your regional partners and global partners in building an interoperable financial infrastructure to drive inclusion and digital empowerment?
Amazing question. So what we did is that when we started working on the financial inclusion and financial literacy, we have actually discussed with similar countries in the region and internationally. We have discussed with the Singapore what we did in regards to the financial inclusion, what kind of initiatives they have done. And also we have turned our heads to the UK, United Kingdom. We have actually discussed with the FCA what are the efforts they are working on in regards to the financial inclusion, what are the initiatives they are taking, and how we can take that experience and capitalize on it locally. So we learn from each other, and we try to create a cross-border alignment between us to help support the mutual benefits that we want, which is to raise the level of financial inclusion, not only in the region, but internationally, because, of course, that will benefit all the countries as a whole.
Got it. Got it. So maybe on that same topic of, because Mauritius is also a gateway, in terms of to Africa. So how are you looking at, that aspect of regional collaboration, on the continent? Yeah.
On the continent, Mauritius is part of the SADC and the COMESA. And the bank is also the settlement bank for the COMESA. And we try to improve and increase the number of transactions that we have within the region. But sometimes we also realize that all countries are not at the same level, and we need to work aligned with this alignment, as I was saying previously, to help transactions going through more easily, and to also increase the financial literacy to have all financial institutions, to use these facilities because it's there, and we should make use of it.
I see. Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I think we're coming right on time. So thank you, gentlemen, for this very insightful discussion. Truly appreciate it. So your messages were very clear in the sense that bridging, that digital divide, it requires the scale of public sector that can come through, and the agility of all participants, including the private sector innovation, coming together. So public-private partnerships and collaboration go a long, long way in helping build that inclusion that we are talking about, because together we can enhance digital literacy. You touched upon the need for kind of more education. So enhance digital literacy, build more security and trust in the ecosystem. It's important with the right tools, with the right solutions, because once the trust is broken, then you cannot, it's very hard, especially with the unserved, underserved population, to bring them into the fold is very, very difficult. So it's important that these systems have to stand the test of time in building that trust. So that's how we can expand access to financial services and build solutions that empower communities in a very sustainable manner for the long term. So the real progress lies in partnerships that leave no one behind, right? And that is our aim collectively, that nobody should be left behind. So with that, I want to thank you for your respective perspectives, and thank you for joining me on this panel. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a huge round of applause for our panelists and our moderator, who has very beautifully conducted this session. Digitally including everybody in an ecosystem for finance is as much a dream as it is convenience for all of us. I want all of you to once again put your hands together for Mr. Mishra, Mr. Kabarah, Mr. Bacha, and our moderator, Mr. Aurora. Thank you so much for concluding this session so beautifully.